Hello, fencing fanatics. Coach Jason here. I know it's been a while. I'm in arrears. I owe you a book review. That's what we're here doing right now, episode number 6. As many of you know, I've stepped away from the school for just a little bit to be that stay-at-home dad in the evenings. I work all day at my full-time job, come home, take care of the kids. Our oldest one has started pre-K, so we try to make sure that she gets a little bit of academia each night, letters and numbers and things like that. And of course, our youngest one is in full destruction mode. So the plan is I'll be back up in January, hopefully January, once he's a little bit more manageable and we can bring them up to the shop and to OFC without them interfering in class. So that's where I've been. That's what I'm doing. I haven't disappeared. I will be back up, but let's get right into this review. All right, so today, as I said, this is episode number 6, and today's book is Right and Left-Handed Fencing by Leonardo, Terrone. Now, I apologize for the backward writing here. Obviously, I'm not at the shop doing my normal thing. I'm here at the whole homestead using the camera on my computer, and it's got things reversed. So if I can't figure out how to flip that in the software, I apologize in advance for that. But anyway, back to the book. This is the first edition, 1959, about 135 pages, and it covers saber and foil. It does not cover epee. This is Mr. Terrone here. And he was an international champion in his day, born in 1872. And he was also a teacher at the military school in Rome. He was a coach at the University of Pennsylvania, and he opened up the Fencing Club of Philadelphia, which I believe I've actually fenced at once before. If it's not the same club, but I was on a business trip to Philadelphia and actually visited the school and had the pleasure of fencing there. So right off the bat, I want to address that Terrone openly says in his book that he has a disdain for modern fencing. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, gee, you kind of blasted some of the other authors in your reviews there, Coach, for doing that. What is this guy different? Yeah, he is a little bit different. Even though he had a disdain for it, he still coached it, and he coached successful fencers. But what makes him different from the other authors that I've read of the classical style is that Terrone actually dueled. He was involved in at least one duel. I don't know if there were more, but at least one duel. Remember, he was born in 1872. He saw fencing progress from non-electric to electric. He saw progressing the dawn of this modern sport that we know of. He was there for it, and then lived into the mid the last century. So that's what makes him stand out. He saw fencing taught in a way that was used for self-defense, even if it still wasn't. Guns had already replaced the sword by then, but it was still used for duels of honor and things like that. And the sport was significantly different since it was not electric, correct? So he was there. He lived it from that point as it evolved into most of what we see today. All right, on page 40 starts the usual foundations of fencing. There are no surprises here. The relevance is pretty good for a book that's 80, 90 years old. He goes into basic footwork and does mention angulation, which is great. We teach angulation. He prefers parries 1 through 4, which is different from what we do. We teach 4, 6, 7, and 8 as your fundamental parries. We do cover all 8 parry positions, but those are the ones that you're going to use the most, 4, 6, 7, and 8, at least from our school. And then he gets into the meat and potatoes of this here, right and left-handed fencing. And apparently when he turned 50 years old, an illness hit him, and he had an irregular heartbeat. And what he had to start doing was fence left-handed. And when he did that, his heartbeat mostly returned to normal, if not completely normal, and his health improved. So he attributed that recovery to the fact that he was now balancing his body, more symmetrical than asymmetrical. There is a lot of well, I don't know if his recovery was due to that, but training symmetrical or training for symmetry is definitely a good thing. We teach our fencers to go outside of the school and engage in other activities, whether that's just skipping rope, it's weightlifting, it's running, whatever, to work both sides of your body. Fencing is very asymmetrical. It's your dominant side, and I've not heard stories of people having health issues as they get older from fencing their entire life. Like, oh, I've got severe back pain and back problems because I fenced for 50 years. I haven't heard anybody say those type of things. So I can't say that the way that we train as fencers is detrimental overall to our health. But certainly training both sides of the body is a good thing. Now, I will say this. Whenever we have a fencer come up and say, oh, I'm ambidextrous, what side should I fence with? I always ask, well, which hand do you write with? Oh, my right hand. Okay, that's the one you're going to fence with. There is no harm in training both sides of your body to fence. Personal story, years ago I had a really bad case of fencer's elbow. It's a little bit different than tennis elbow, but it was really painful, and I actually fenced for 6 months. I didn't compete during that time. I fenced at the academy left-handed. I did drills left-handed, coached left-handed, all that good stuff. And it was okay, a little bit of proficiency, but certainly wasn't a competitor grade with the left hand. But if you're serious about moving as fast as you can into competition and through competition and getting the ratings and national points, whatever it is you're after, training your non-dominant side is going to slow you down. That's what we tell our serious guys, our serious competitors. It's you don't want to do that. Stick with your dominant side. Go as fast as you can. Keep training that side. Do cross training if you need to outside the academy, or occasionally fence left-handed internally if you need to. But don't try to train to the level to where you could go left or right-handed in a competition. That's just too slow. It's going to slow you down. Stick with your dominant side. However, if if that's not your goal, then sure, it's not going to hurt anything. Training both sides, why not? It's certainly a common theme in martial arts, of all kinds. You don't just train one side of your body like we do in fencing. Fencing, we train that dominant side because we're hiding the other part of the target. Remember, fencing is coming from a lethal form of self-defense, right? So you're trying to make your target as small as possible to that incoming blade. And so we get our right hand or our left hand in front of us with the weapon and then try to hide the other half of our target as much as we can. Even though it's a sport now, we do the same thing. It reduces the chance of being hit. So that's why we train the way that we do. On page 73, I'll read you something really short here. And it goes, in modern fencing, the danger to life having disappeared, the average fencer is inclined to express undisciplined and often presumptuous inclinations towards superficial action. Now, what he's saying there is something that I've said many times to our fencers. A lot of times you'll hear some coaches say, well, the art of fencing is, fencing is the art of touching without being touched. And that's not true. It's not true at all. You can watch any bout. You can watch high-level Olympic bouting, right, and national level bouting. That threat to life has been removed. So we make goofy decisions on the strip for that point. We're fencing 4 points. Aldo Nadi was correct when he said that the art of fencing has progressed the way it should be. The art of scoring a point regardless of form. Form is still important. He says that in his book, but at the end of the day, getting the points is what matters. That's what we're fencing for. We're fencing for points. We're not fencing to defend ourselves. So, in the right-of-way weapons such as saber and foil, if I understand how right-of-way works, I can use it. If I know an attack's coming in and I parry and riposte, I'm not really worried about clearing that attack completely off my target. As long as the referee sees that I parried and I'm riposting, if their remise completes, I should get the point. And I'm counting on that. I'm betting on that, right? So we do make goofy decisions on that. And epee, you guys are just as guilty. Double touch? Yeah, double touch. That toward the end of that bout, if you're ahead by 1 or 2 and you just need that one more to go, you'll take the double touch. You're not going to try and make it a single light, especially if you're running short. Just go for it, right? If they attack, hit. So epee's a little bit closer to the truth, right? But they're just as guilty as the rest of them. So what he says is absolutely true. I won't say it's undisciplined. I disagree with that. How we fence and what we train is very disciplined, and it's a lot of work. It's just a different way of application, right? There's no threat of life. It's like, so we're going to get up there and do things. So, do I recommend this book? Absolutely. This is like the third time that I've read it. It's going to be hard to find. I recently went out and looked on Amazon and eBay, did not find a copy of it at all. I picked this one up off of eBay several years ago. And the last time I saw it, I think I got this luckily for like 40 bucks, 40 or 50 bucks. Last time I did steal it, it was going for 200. The older it gets, right? The more expensive it gets. But if a bit dated, it's a fascinating book written from the perspective of a guy who dueled and saw fencing, or was with fencing from the time it began as a modern sport. And even though he didn't quite like it, stuck with it, and was successful with it. And was good at it. So that's more than anything. It's a fascinating read from that. It just looks so cheerful. But it's a great book. I do recommend it for your library if you can find a copy at a decent price, and getting into the head of Terrone there a little bit. I also like to point you to this video. If you get a chance, talks a little bit more about Terrone from a teacher of mine, actually, Mr. Carl Godwin. And so I hope you enjoy that. And yeah, episode 6 is concluded. I'll try to get episode 7 out to you. Like I said before, I planned 10 of these, so 3 more to go. And you guys have a great week. Bye. He just looks like he would complain about the flick endlessly.